Hello and welcome to this new tutorial series that I am trying to make called 5-Minute Code Theory. It's the beginning of the new year, so it's a new try at making this tutorial series. I keep failing it because I keep taking too long and I'm just terrible at recording tutorials, so let's just try to make an unedited version of it where I just run through everything as quickly as possible. Probably be a bit longer than 5 minutes and I'm probably going to miss a whole lot of information, but let's just see if I can do this. So, first line we got here, shuffle that thing across a bit. Yes, I am using Notepad++, and this is the Obsidian theme, I'm pretty sure. The idea of this tutorial series is to teach programming in easy-to-learn 5-minute chunks of tutorials, although it's a lot more complicated to do that than it sounds, but hey, whatever. So, this first episode, probably basics of HTML or getting into coding or something. I have no clue what I'm going to call this episode yet. Will be about just that. What's on this page right now. So the first thing we got here is the HTML tag. You have an opening tag and a closing tag, which you can see down the bottom here, signified by this /. So the / is on closing tags, and just the name itself is on the opening tags. So the HTML says to the computer that this is a HTML document. Next we have the head. The head is where you put information such as the title tag. The title tag is what the title of your tab is called when you have web pages. Little tabs at the top, and the tab has a name in it. This is the name here. So if I was to run this in the browser, or open this in the browser or whatever, it would be called tab title. Next thing we have is the body. The body is where you usually put content you want the user to see. In this case, I have a canvas. A canvas is the thing that I use the most when doing these tutorials. I'm going to have a canvas in every single one of the things I create here, probably, except for the heavy theory things that I do. And yeah, a canvas is pretty much like you would expect it to be. It's a place where you can draw things to be rendered within the web page. This is just one of the many tags you can use. You can also use divs and images and text areas and all that sort of fun stuff. And I'll probably have a separate episode that just goes deeper into different types of tags, but yeah. So I won't go into what all this yellow stuff is or anything like that. That will be done in that episode. No clue what it'll be called. Probably going to re-record this episode later on, but who knows. If I did name it, it would probably be something like expanded HTML tags or something. I don't know. Next thing we have the script. So the script tag is what contains your script that you code within the browser's page or whatever. This is code that will run on front end, not on the server side. So in this case, well, actually by default, if you don't define it as something else, it'll automatically assume anything within the script tag is JavaScript. So everything I got here is just plain, basic, ordinary, everyday JavaScript. I'm not importing any libraries or doing any of that sort of junk. One misconception people have with JavaScript is they think it's very complicated because you've got to learn all these different libraries, import all this junk, and you don't. Everything that's done within libraries, as far as I'm aware, is just ordinary everyday JavaScript. It's just functions and code that people have created with normal everyday JavaScript and put into supposedly a nice, small, easy-to-use package. Although I find this stuff weighs down the page more than anything. Like, I see other people's code, it's just billions of lines of code, which shouldn't even be 10. So, I try to avoid that stuff at all costs, but that's just me. So the first thing I should mention is this stuff. These are called indents, these spaces that I have here pushing everything out. And that's basically showing you what contains what. So, all of this stuff is contained within the HTML tag, and this part is contained within the head tag. So you can see it's inside it because it's indented into it. It's called indenting. So differences between JavaScript and other programming languages, such as Python, is the one that I see it happen, the only one I've seen it happen in, really. Because JavaScript and Python are very, very similar to each other. If you pretty much know JavaScript, you can learn Python within a day or so. But indenting is slightly different in something like Python, which it's necessary in Python. It's not necessary in JavaScript. I could get rid of these spaces and the whole thing would work perfectly fine. But one thing to note about these spaces is this is not 4 spacebars in this case. It is 1 space that is 4 long, not 4 spaces that are 1 long. So there is a difference between that. Pressing spacebar 4 times is not the same as pressing tab. Yeah, completely different things. So just keep that in mind if you ever try to convert code, because it did take me a while to figure that one out. You have problems with it when copy-pasting from places such as if you put your code on Facebook or something like that, which actually Facebook wouldn't have 4 spaces, it would only have one of the spaces. And that's the next thing. JavaScript ignores white space. What that means, or empty space. White space, empty space, whatever. If I remove that, the VAR changes color to show that it doesn't understand what that means anymore, and that whole thing is now a variable, which I'll get more into in the variable thing, in the variable episode, what variables are, and different types of variables and stuff. But basically, that color, that text is green because it has special text. It has significance within JavaScript that is magic. And it being green is just JavaScript telling you that it recognizes this word. If I remove that space, it no longer recognizes it, because it doesn't see where VAR stops and FPS starts. So you need to have a space there. But once you have one space there, you can have as many as you want, and it won't care. You can put tabs there, you can put whatever you want that is a space, which is pretty much just spacebar and tab. So that's a cool thing to do. Although you can have problems with that, but I'll get more into the problems of that and solutions in other episodes. Another thing is I don't have any commas at the end of my line. You may see that as a common thing with programming and also JavaScript, but they are completely, entirely, 100% unnecessary within JavaScript. So never worry about those things unless defined in certain places, such as conditions and stuff. But I'll talk about those in, again, an episode with conditions, which will probably be like if statements, or maybe I'll have a special episode on its own with conditions. I don't know. I'm just running through this as a new year, trying to care less. That's my New Year's thing, because I care too much, and that's why I've never been able to get this done in the last, 2 years. So, moving on. Again, white space. I could have spaces before and after these equals. It doesn't matter. Equals is a symbol, not a letter, so you can't use it with the names of stuff, and therefore you can combine it with text, and it won't think that the equals is part of the text or part of the number. And again, if I put a space there, I'm not actually entirely sure what will happen then. It could still be 24, or it might be 2. Actually, no, yeah, it'll probably be 2, so FPS will equal 2, and then you've just got a 4 there? I don't know if that would break your code or not, who knows. Yeah, next thing we got here is a function, so this thing's a variable, this is a variable that's saying that FPS is a variable that equals 24. This is a function, the function name is init, and it has no conditions, variables, inputs. I don't really know what you put within the round brackets. I'll go more into what the round brackets mean in the functions episode, because that will have an entire episode on its own, because functions are quite complicated. But after that, I have this bracket, and you may see these bracket things with down like that, or connected on the same line like this. I prefer it like this, although some tutorials will show it on a separate line. There is no difference between it, because just like as I said, JavaScript ignores white space. I'm pretty sure I could have as many spaces as I want between those two things, and it would still work. I'm not entirely 100% certain about that. I think after the second line it might actually break. I don't even know why I'm mentioning these things. It's hard to talk quickly and also have your thoughts together. But yeah, this basically contains the code within them. So everything between the opening bracket and the closing bracket is this function. So all this function does is run another function called frame. So again, I have a new function called frame, and the frame function is everything inside here. So also the indenting again shows that it's all inside of the function. And within that, I have this other function here. So this is a predefined function within JavaScript called setTimeout. And I'll probably mention this on lots of other episodes. I'm not quite sure if this will get a dedicated episode, because there are a few functions with pre-built functions within JavaScript, but I don't know if there's really enough of them to make an entire episode solely for them. But basically what a setTimeout does is it waits a defined amount of time before running the code within it. So this is a function that basically runs another function after a set amount of time has ended. So this amount of time is 1000 divided by FPS. That's meowing. So the time delay is measured in milliseconds, and there's 1000 milliseconds within 1 second. So if I just had 1000 on its own, it means this function would be delayed by 1 second before running. But 1 second divided by FPS would mean there would be 24, it would run 24 times every second. Yeah, and what this is doing is it's running itself, basically. So, frame, well, actually, it hasn't started any running yet. Next thing I've got out here is this function being run. So I defined the function in it here, and then I'm running it there. So I'm running it with no inputs, and that's running everything inside of here, which is just the function frame. The function frame then runs to say set timeout. The set timeout now waits like 5 milliseconds or however much it is. I don't know. I think like 15 or 20, 23. I don't know. Some amount of milliseconds. And then it will be running the frame function again, which then waits another however much a frame is to run the function, and waits a frame, runs the function, waits a frame. And by doing that, you then have a frame rate sort of running thing within a game or something. So this could be used to make a character move across a screen or something, because if this only ran once and you had your render functions in here, whatever functions you have, it would only render your character once. Then as much as you move your character around, you will never see the character actually move across the screen unless you re-render the canvas with the updated locations of all the things you're rendering. So you need this to be rendering every single frame, as defined by the frame rate, which is 1000 divided by the frame rate number. So that's the basics of a simple frame rate running thing, although this is bad. There's a few different ways you may have found to do this. One of them's to set timeout, one of them's request frame animation or something. I can't remember exactly what that function's called. But I will be going into better and more efficient frame rate running things in another episode. Probably called frame rate function or something. Setting up frame rates, I don't know. But a quick overview of why this is bad is this takes time. Well, things could take time before this. So this timer will not start until all code has finished running. So you could have a loop of code that is running, and it might take a second to run that code. Or something. And after that second of delayed code running happens, because code takes time to run. It isn't instant, it isn't magical. Everything takes time. Although an extremely small amount of time, because computers are like unbelievably fast, like just crazy fast. So yeah, it does cause problems though. If you tried to make a game, you might notice some frame dropping and you'd be like, why is this happening? And it's probably because you've got a function running somewhere that's looping through large amounts of things, and it's literally just delaying your code. So that's why I don't like the set timeout function, because it doesn't take that into account. And the request frame animation, whatever, doesn't take anything into account as far as I know. It just literally re-renders the frame as soon as possible. Or runs the function which you tell it to as soon as possible. And I don't like that either, because that pretty much means your CPU is going to be running at 100% all the time. So I have my own way of doing it. As I said, I'll go into that in another episode. And yeah, my one basically takes all this into account, and if nothing needs to be rendered, it doesn't get rendered, and if it isn't time for a frame to be rendered, then it won't render a frame. So it's much more efficient use of your computer's power, and you can do cooler stuff with it. That's pretty much it. So then I just got a closing tag for the script, closing tag for the HTML, and job done. You could then put this into your browser and run it, and you would just see a title, tag, whatever, and a canvas, which I believe probably has the default background color of white, so you would probably see literally nothing on your page, and the tab would just be called tab title. This would be running in the background, but not doing any sort of performance things at all. So, that pretty much concludes this first pseudo episode, let's say, of this. I don't think there's too much I've forgotten, although there's probably a large amount, which is why I always delay so much and fail at making these episodes, because I always forget information, and I ramble too much like I am now. Then I go way over the time limit of 5 minutes, like it's already been 15 minutes in this thing already. Like, how was this 15 minutes? I don't know. But yeah, the next episode I'll do, if I continue this on, if people like this. If not, I will attempt to do the more fancier way of doing this again, which requires very large amounts of editing. It literally takes me 2 hours to record a 5-minute episode, or an hour to record a 5-minute episode, then 2 hours to edit that down to 5 minutes, where I never really realize I've forgotten something, or just get over it and give up on the project again. But anyway, people like this. Let me know in the comments that you actually like this and don't just like it, because a like is completely meaningless to me. I mean, anyone can like a page without even watching the video. And also donating would be great too. I'll probably have a donate button on the next episode, because, I don't know, maybe I'll have it in the chat. Yeah, let's hope I haven't forgotten too much. I don't think I have, but I always do. I think it pretty much covers everything. As I say, I've put a lot of time planning these episodes, but then I record. I'm rambling again. Yeah, so let's just say that's good enough. Anything I've forgotten, I'll just do in other episodes. So, thanks for watching. Bye.